This is your Chargers linebacker, Deion Henley, and you're tuning in with Chargers Unleashed.
Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dale Wolkenstein here with you from the LA Football Network. If this is your first time tuning in this show, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Dan Wolkenstein, not bad for a Jake Hefner who woke up 2 hours ago, who has not gotten a chance to have his morning caffeine. I had to take care of my young daughter this morning, so apologies for the 15-minute delay. Originally, we were supposed to go off at the top of the hour, so I appreciate everybody who is still tuning in on a Saturday morning, June 13th. Dan Wolkenstein, football? Is it right around the corner? No, it's not. But we are here today to obviously talk about the latest coming out of Chargers OTAs. No, nobody's hitting anybody, but who the hell cares? Let's talk some football. Let's talk Chargers on a Saturday morning. Dan Wolkenstein, how are you, sir?
Honestly, I feel like the worm has turned. I'll take this from Mr. Jim Harbaugh. All of the lungs have been hacked. All of the sicknesses have been had.
You've had a rough couple days.
Bro, for those who don't, I mean, whatever, I'll share the details, but it has been sick city over here. Thankfully, not me, but both kids, it has just sounded awful. So we've had trips to the pediatrician and almost trips to the doctor, just the whole nine. No sleep till Brooklyn. We've been crazy over here, but would you believe it? My daughter's still sleeping. And my son slept like 8 hours straight. And both my wife and I woke up like,
the children are alive, right?
This is new. This is new. So it feels good. It feels good. And thank goodness it is happening when there is close to nothing happening in Chargers land, to where the biggest storylines are the OTA takeaways, which we're going to get to today. But exciting times ahead. I think right now we all know this is like the downtime. This is the what can we find a way to talk about for 30 minutes? We're going to do our best today with some of the biggest takeaways from OTA. But as Jake said, apologies for 15 minutes. Apologies for us just being more or less MIA. A lot of that's on me for just going through it on our end. But we're here. That's what matters. Jake Hefner, I know you've had a couple hours, a little one this morning. How are you doing this fine morning?
Daughter's good. Got slept, had to change a couple diapers in that 2-hour time period of waking up this morning. But as Dad was kind of mentioning, context-wise, I think we were originally scheduled at 3 different periods this week to record, do a live show, what have you. And it's just, the week has just gotten away from us for a number of different reasons. So we're like, okay, by hook or by crook, we are going to do something this week. And by God, let's make it a live show. So happy to see all of you. It's been a minute since we have actually done one live. Appreciate everybody who is tuning in on a Saturday morning. As Dan usually says, what is everybody drinking on a Saturday morning? Obviously, Dan has his morning Joe, morning caffeine. What is everybody else that's out there? What do you guys have in your hands? What are you waking up to on a Saturday morning? World Cup vibes, Dan. I'm sure everybody's stoked on that performance from yesterday. So that's going to be going on for the next 5 weeks. That'll be some form of football that will be taking place that everybody can get behind as far as Team USA. But as you see here, biggest OT takeaways. Yes, nobody's hitting anybody right now. But there is still plenty to talk about, whether it is position speculation, what's going to happen on the offensive line, what's the final roster going to look like, what is Mike McDaniel's offense going to do, this adjustment now to Justin Herbert not necessarily throwing every day, better just overall rest for him to work on his footwork, and tons more that we can talk about as it relates to just our own opinions on this team. And of course, your voice always matters. So fire off any questions that you have here. And over the next 45 minutes or so, Dan and I are going to do our best to answer everything for you. But Dan Wolkenstein, where would you like to start?
Thomas Hawley.
The hell was that?
Can't wait for the season and expecting my first child during the season.
Yo!
siren. Now you see where the siren's coming from.
Okay, now I was like, dude, did the 5-0 just pull up right outside your house? I was like, I have not heard you drop that noise before on the show. I was like, what is happening?
Shout out, Thomas. Congratulations to you and the family. Best of luck. You're ready for the ride of your life, and it is so fun. People are giving us what they're drinking. We've got iced coffee, and a congrats to Thomas. Michelada. Damn, it's 10:20 in Texas. Y'all are going. I love it. Good for you.
Cigarette and Mandarin sparkling water. Rock on.
You don't get that level of detail unless it's 100% fact. Black coffee and a breakfast nachos. Yep. Isn't that chilaquiles? Or am I wrong? Whatever. Different day. Moonshine, beef tallow, just starting off crazy. We have lots of takes already here, Jake, but before we get to our takes, it's been a minute, so our bills are a little stacked up right now.
Oh yeah.
Let's do our best to pay for a little bit of them by talking about our friends over at FanDuel.
Right. The betting does not stop for the NFL, even in the offseason. And FanDuel gives you the capability to stay in the action with NFL futures right now. You can get the Los Angeles Chargers at plus 185 to win the AFC West and plus 1,500 to win the Super Bowl. So, yeah, the value is sitting there waiting for anybody who is willing to jump on the Bolt fam to take the championship this year. So if you're ready to ride with them, make sure to use the promo code ChargersLAFB for your chance to win at FanDuel and let them know that Chargers Unleashed sent you.
So there's a lot of takeaways that we could start with. But Jake, I'm going to give you the floor. We like to do this sometimes. 50,000 foot view. Overarching biggest takeaway so far. And again, we haven't seen anybody hit anybody. We've barely seen a ball thrown.
Mm-hmm.
We're not seeing anyone get tackled. Like nothing is that crazy. But 50,000 foot view. What's the biggest takeaway right now?
I think everybody's just wondering. I mean, and maybe it's not wonder; it's more anticipation because we know that how different the offensive line in general is going to be. It's and to be fair, it's not a high bar to jump over when you're talking about a comparison between Greg Roman and Mike McDaniel. But Dan, we talked about it when we were breaking down between the offense, the defense, and everything as far as just the different positions, what was going to what was going to look different, what was going to look possibly improve. And when if you kind of just put those two side by side, and as we said, we don't expect much overall schematic change for the defense, but damn, there's going to be an overhaul offensively. Not just in the way that you're drawing up plays, not just the way that Mike McDaniel is now working on the footwork out of the shotgun for Justin Herbert. The utilization of the wide receivers in certain sets. The tight end room in general, I think, is going to play a huge piece in this offense moving forward. For now, the versatility that Mike McDaniel has to utilize with the likes of OG, David Njoku, Kohler, and using Alex Ingold, both as a fullback and a tight end in those circumstances. I think the running game is going to be much more fluid with Amarian Hampton, Vidal, and obviously adding Keaton Mitchell in the backfield. And there's so many different elements to this to say, okay, how creative is it going to be? And we've heard Mike McDaniel talk about this so many times, and it's the wish of Dan that he's been waiting for the last couple of years. Where's the easy play? Get the ball out of Justin Herbert's hands quick to nullify that opposing pass rush so that he doesn't get hit 120 plus times like we saw this past season. So I think that's really the biggest anticipation is what is that going to look like? What is Mike McDaniel going to draw up with the players that he has on this roster? How is he going to elevate certain guys that we've kind of been waiting to see them take that next step?
So anticipation would probably be your word to summarize the takeaways. Because again, there's not much that we've seen in terms of like tactical ideation, if you will. But like big picture, we talk about like the truck and the trailer. And there are a few trucks on this team that drive the trailer, that drive the rest of the team. One of which obviously is Justin Herbert. But to me, and I think some of us might be taking this for granted, and I'm never going to take it for granted because of what I saw last year. Like in a competition for the worst offensive line in history, they were in the running for one of one. It was horrendous. And so, big picture, truck driving the trailer, having Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater ahead of schedule, both of them in this scheme, aside from Justin Herbert, that is the biggest storyline from a personnel perspective. I don't think you can add an influx of that much talent to a position of that much need last year as you can with those two. Now, add in kind of the sprinkles of everything else, right? Add in like them trying to get the ball out of Justin's hand in like 2 point whatever seconds. Try not to rely on Justin to having to chuck it and play hero ball all the time. You know, the different schemes that should be helping these offensive line be more agile and athletic. Like all that stuff is great, but I don't know how much of that even matters if Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt aren't here. And so since last season happened, I will never take for granted a snap that we see those two playing because they're that good. They are that good. They are that advertised. Now, that being said, there's a ton of other stuff here that we'll get to. But I will say the one thing that's been kind of fun is some names that have already kind of started to slip out as like names to watch that you should not be surprised when training camp comes, start seeing those like camp battles start to emerge. You're starting to see folks, we talked about it when you're going through the offensive defensive outlook, but on the defensive side, we talked about the defensive line. We talked about linebackers. We talked about some of the guys who might be on the bubble, which people in the chat are already talking about. Offensive line, you look at the left guard position. There's some names there that we'll get to here that people probably didn't expect to be in line to possibly start, but they might be there. So, Jake, the floor is yours. Where do you want to start this thing off with a takeaway before I get to the chat?
Offensive line just makes so much sense. And I don't know if I could piggyback off of the comments made by you any better than what you've already said, honestly. And we won't really know. And I think everything's kind of focused now to that left guard spot between the expectation of, okay, was Jake Slaughter drafted now to come in and play left guard? What is his role going to be? That was the assumption. And now everything that we've seen out of OTAs thus far is that Owasika has been in there at the left guard spot and has taken majority of the starting reps, while there has been some rotation of Jake Slaughter in there. And, for OTAs, and right now with nobody hitting anybody, again, it's still part of the quote unquote install for them and just getting everything underneath their feet. So I don't want to say necessarily that that's not something to take into account, but I think for Jake Slaughter, the progression as far as what you're expecting of him to do, if that indeed is the plan, that we come around to week 1 and somehow he ends up taking that left guard spot, it all is a matter of progression for a guy who's never played left guard before and has played his entire career at center. There is obviously a learning curve to be had. So this is probably just the early days of doing that. But I think when we get into the time of training camp and, the dog days of preseason, I think you're going to start to see that change. But it is something to take note as far as just in general, as Dan brings up here. Look at the reinforcements that have just been done in one single season to the offensive line. Like I said before, when we talked about this exact slide right after the draft took place, Joe Ortiz basically doesn't want to hear a damn thing about anybody questioning investments in the offensive line for a while, considering what took place. But, in general, you can't say enough about Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater at the 2 bookend spots. We've already heard so many great comments about Tyler Biotis and how his fit is already in the system. And you just know, just in general, as far as what you're going to be getting out of this offensive line, I just don't see how you get anywhere close, especially if you're talking about Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater being healthy, that you get anything in the universe of what you had last year. I think just in as far as when you hear about Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt running in this offensive system with Butch Berry and talking about what they do best and just, overpowering people.
Screaming.
Yes. And just running. Yeah. I think it's going to be a great fit for them because, I mean, just look at these two guys on the right-hand side of your screen. You do kind of get mistaken for big lummoxes like this and how athletic they could actually be. And that's part of the whole reason for this is that along with Mike McDaniel's system, Butch Berry is going to install something that's going to be really fun, that is really going to take advantage of all of these offensive linemen's situations. And as Dan has some previous slides up there just to show the before and after. I mean, my God in heaven, that's it's pretty crazy. But yes, this is now what it should be. You can put a question mark by that Jake Slaughter picture right now.
Yep.
But this is the revamped offensive line, and then Dan, go back to what it was last year, just real quick for a comparison.
It says that
again, and you pretty much should just put like an
injuries.
X on the left and the right side to take out Joe Alt and Rashawn
and
Slater.
The center and the left guard and the right guard.
Unbelievably god awful. I mean, it's crazy the overhaul that has been done, but not just by personnel, schematically as this season approaches. It's going to be a huge advantage for not only the players that are in it, but Justin Herbert as well.
I mean, again, look at this. Like at the start of the season, Rashawn Slater wasn't even playing. Joe Alt got hurt. Bradley Bozeman isn't on the team anymore. I'll put it lightly. Mekhi Becton didn't play. And Zion Johnson is on the team. So, like, you could argue the entire offensive line is different this year. And I know we talked a little bit, a bunch, I should say, about kind of the new offensive line with the tackles. But not to be mistaken is the impact for the center as well. You could bring back those two caliber tackles and you add the influx of talent, the talent difference between a Bradley Bozeman and the upgrade to a Tyler Biadasz and all of the praise that the staff has given him. I mean, there's no question that the offensive line was the biggest storyline the entire offseason. Aside from who's going to replace the coordinators, it was the offensive line. Like, if they don't fix the offensive line, they're screwed. So I think that's huge. Absolutely huge. And we've gone this far, and we haven't talked about Mike McDaniel that much, but I'm sure everyone has gone out there and seen the mic'd up. I mean, it's fun. And it's good seeing kind of folks chirp a little bit. And I saw someone in the comments somewhere, I don't know where it was, but I totally agreed with it. When they were talking about, or when you see the mic'd up with Mike McDaniel in terms of takeaways, one thing that I immediately thought to was like, that's not an average offensive coordinator out there. Like, normally offensive coordinators kind of stick to their lanes. Like, they don't go on the other side of the tracks. Like, they don't try to do other people's jobs. They don't kind of chirp out the other team, the other side of the ball. Mike McDaniel de-gaffs, and he'll talk to anyone on that entire roster during practice, which is a testament to like his experience as a head coach and not just on one side of the ball. And so I think his ability to connect to the entire team, like the head coach, but also to infuse this new age line of thinking for offenses, whether it's the footwork that we talked about, whether it's the scheme that we're talking about, whether it's the intensity around getting the ball out, protecting Justin and all the fancy toys. Like, this is, I would argue, I mean, you can go back to, I guess, the first year of, Shane Day. And I think this is more. I think it's more. This is probably the most excited the Chargers fan base has been for an offensive coordinator since Justin has been here.
Last thing I want to talk about real quick, just because I see people talking about it in the chat as far as Jake Slaughter goes. Jake Slaughter has the athletic profile to play in this system. Does that mean that there's not going to be a learning curve in it? Of course not. Of course there's going to be, some bumps along the road for someone who's exclusively played center. I think he also needs to get bigger by the time that we hit week 1, as far as his overall size and power goes for how to handle it. But as far as his athleticism goes, I mean, just go back and watch what he was doing at Florida just over the past 2 years, not even in 2025. Watch it the year prior as well. He's been one of the most consistent centers of any player that was out there on that field. And some people, maybe are not the biggest fans of, how he blocks, this, that, and the other. But as far as just his overall athleticism, he can do it. He can do it. So I think that he has the mindset, the overall, mental acuity to come in and do these things and learn that position. He's obviously spoken well about it. So again, this offensive line is not going to be perfect. Trust me, it's not going to shoot from worst to first. We're not expecting anything of that type of a nature when you have this much of an overhaul, but you do expect some improvement. And if you can get this offensive line to just even say, hey, middle of the road, that's serviceable for Justin Herbert, especially with the defense that you have right now.
And again, like, to put that in context, for the offensive line to just be middle of the road, okay? Let's peel that back just a sec. I'm pretty confident that Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt will both be very good to elite, somewhere in that range. Pretty darn confident that Tyler Biadasz is going to be at least very good. Which means your two guards can be absolute trash, and your offensive line still, in totality, middle of the road. And still is worlds better than a year ago. And so some of that can be minimized by the scheme, by the coordinator, by the surrounding talent around them. So, let's put it in perspective, right? What we're seeing now is worlds different.
Trust the coaches in place now. Okay? Greg Roman, Mike Devlin were not able to do anything in terms of sub-planning and stopping the bleeding when it came to the offensive line and the scheme that they ran on a week-to-week basis. Look at what Butch Berry did with the offensive line in Miami as that season progressed last year. This is where you have to put some of your trust in the coaching scheme, where your eyes may not believe it as far as the player goes. This is, again, I go back to it even before the days of Harbaugh was here. It had been so long since this team had a coach that you can put your trust in to develop the players, where it's not about saying, yes, this guy is talented 100%. That's why he's going to get paid the big bucks. And the Chargers for so long were just littered with guys at the top end of the depth chart, but they didn't have anybody else below them that could step up in a moment's notice. You have that part now, but you also have the coaching. When Dan and I talked about the defense, we highlighted 4 defensive coaches on the team right now. We're talking about Mike Elston, Clinkscale, Adam is it Adam Fuller, who's the safety goes on a wide, all of a sudden blanked on me on there. But look at the work that they've done with the interior defensive line. Look at the work that's been done with the edge group over the last couple of years. Look at the work that Clink has done with not one, not two, but virtually that entire cornerback room. There comes a point in time where you have to trust the coaching. And yes, I know from the PTSD that we all have of the offensive line last year, I get all that. But that coaching is going to be a huge X factor when it comes to the offensive line.
Yeah. Another OTA takeaway for me is the interior defensive line and how that's kind of moving around and shifting. And, full stop. In Mike Elston, we trust. Like, Jake Hefner can go out there and I'm like, dang, all right, probably going to get paid $30 million in a year. Like, cool. He's going to get the most out of Jake. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But I would trust him to work with Jake Hefner. But what you saw with the Poona Fords, the Tyre Tarts, Jamar Caldwell, the Boygbees, it's like the list goes on and on and on. How that defense, I'm not even talking about like the edge group too, but like that defensive line now with Dalvin Tomlinson, You're kind of seeing folks kind of move around at edge versus interior. So there's the fluidity, right? There's the duality, if you will, where they're not just going to be isolated at the nose, so to speak. This is a very what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of it. This defensive line can do lots of things. Jeez, I can't think of the word. It's going to drive me insane.
Versatile?
I'm excited. Versatile works, yes. Dalvin Tomlinson, I think, is one name that I don't know if people are talking about enough. I think people are kind of forgetting the impact that guy had before last year that was kind of stagnant. I'm excited to see what he does. And there's a lot of praise inside that building for Nick Barrett. And that's just the interior defensive line. And so, like, that group in a Chris O'Leary type defense, like, that's important. Like, that is kind of one of the anchors of their defense, is how well that interior defensive line can be stout. I'm excited to see the Jamar Caldwell 2.0, though.
Very excited for that.
Because, like, remember back when he was drafted, everyone was smarter than Joe Ortiz. It was just like laughing at how early they got Caldwell. Like, the guy knows what he's doing. Okay, like, let's give him some slack here. This defensive line might be better this year than last year. And they got rid of some guys. Like, Owe's not on this team anymore.
Deshaun Hand, free agent, no longer on the team. And a lot of people wanted both guys back, obviously. But as far as the interior goes, I think there's different things, obviously, that you can do with Dalvin Tomlinson than you could with Deshaun Hand, and vice versa. Yeah. But I think that they have, and again, this is just the beauty part and of what Mike Elston brings to the game, is just he knows how to utilize the players to their potential, not necessarily to fit the overall scheme. He's smart enough to have such a versatile pieces in his defensive line. And again, we see this even when you see the rotation of having three edges along that defensive line when Khalil Mack will kick inside. There's so much fluidity to this defensive line in general that, again, has a spot for everybody to shine. And that's where Mike Elston has just been an all-star for this coaching staff in general, as far as just developing. And the record speaks for itself. Look at the resume. Look what he's done with two of the guys that have departed from this team over the last couple of years through free agency that ended up being impact players while they were here for just a short period of time. I talk about trust in coaches. Dan said it. I trust in Mike Elston for sure.
Another takeaway. You've seen some talks, and you kind of alluded to a little bit, but there's the footwork and the mechanics type stuff that Mike McDaniel is working on with Justin, and kind of that never being satisfied. You heard Mike McDaniel talk about how he has watched every single throw of Justin Herbert's career. This idea of kind of a Justin Herbert 3.0 is intriguing to me, because kind of like what we saw the last couple of years, right? Like, everyone knows Justin's got a cannon, right? Like, everyone knows he's athletic and he's durable and he is like, we all know that. But everything has always been like, but can he show up in the big games and can he win? Like, that's really all it's been. And I think some of that has been fairly put on his shoulders, and some of it has been unfairly put on his shoulders. And we don't have to get into the excuse game. But what I've seen over the last couple of years, and I appreciate from Jim Harbaugh, is he has, to an extent, enabled Justin to not have to do as much at times. Like, you go back to his rookie year 2 years ago where he's throwing for 5K. He's not doing that as much. He's not having to play hero ball the entire game. Now, offensive line woes, injuries, like all of that kind of makes it hard to not do that in some instances. But I think what Mike McDaniel is now bringing as this 3.0, so go from like rookie second year Justin where he's just slinging it everywhere, and then you go to the 2.0 Justin where he's being a little bit more conservative, if you will, a little bit more mobile, a little bit more pick and choose when he wants to go crazy. Now, this 3.0 seems to be like, how can you be the most efficient? How can you get the ball out? How can you protect yourself? How can we move the chains as best and as efficiently as we can? Whether that's via pass, via run. And so the 3.0 Justin, like you go back to Tua's heyday. And remember, everyone was talking about like, oh, anybody can do it, whatever. Like Tua's good at certain things. You put Justin in that exact same scenario, and I would put all of my money on Justin being just as good, if not better. And so giving Justin those, to your, as you mentioned earlier, like those easy buttons that we have just been dying to see in this offense. If they can make this easier for Justin in this 3.0 version, the sky's the limit. Like Brett Coleman talks about 50 touchdowns, MVP season, 100%. Because it's felt like Justin's had a scratch and claw for everything. And that's the opposite of what a Mike McDaniel offense looks like. Like they make it look effortless at times. And everything just fits. So takeaway for me is that Justin Herbert 3.0 thing. Like how much of a difference will we see? Again, we haven't been able to see that much, but the takeaway is there's Mike McDaniel fingerprints all over that. We shall see. Next up for you, Jake. Actually, real quick, let's get some of the comments.
Let's go.
Eddie, Dan and Jake, if GM Joe Ortiz makes a blockbuster trade, what would it be? And will it be done before the start of the season or at the trade deadline?
As far as timing goes, I don't think that you can necessarily put one on Joe Ortiz. He said the work is always going. You're constantly churning the roster, looking for ways to improve it. And over the last 2 years, you've seen Joe Ortiz do trades at both of those timelines. You saw Elijah Molden, who was traded just before the start of the season. And in 2024, that really paid off dividends for your defense as far as what he was able to contribute. And then obviously with Khalil Mack going down, you had to do something to give a rejuvenation to that pass rush. It couldn't have just been all Thule. And so you went out and you get Justin Adafe Owe. I was about to say Justin Adafe there. Adafe Owe, excuse me. So I think that he's shown that he's willing to swing the bat for a trade at any point in time that means something to the team. As far as who that could be for, I mean, who knows? I think it's still too early to say at this point in time. If there was any type of free agent acquisition that takes place or any trade that takes place in between now and the season, I would venture a guess, even though I'm so high on this group, that it would be for a corner. That would be my guess. If we were trying to figure out what position group that they would go after, I think that's it. I think offensively, I think that they're locked in. I know that Joe Ortiz has talked about Keenan Allen returning, but I just, as of right now, I don't really put that much in the cards, given how they've built up that wide receiver room over the last couple of years. You're set at tight end. You're set at running back. You've obviously you got 14 offensive linemen under contract right now. I don't think it's going to be anything offensively, to be perfectly honest. I think it would be something on the defensive side.
Interesting. Yeah, so you saw some rumblings over in New England with the Christian Gonzalez stuff. I go back and forth on the cornerback stuff I should say just DBs in general. Like, as much as we have not seen them bring in like a bona fide CB1, like Christian Fulton, for most of the time he was playing here, was CB1. Dante Jackson, give him credit, man. He has outkicked that coverage and has played well above his contract and has been CB1. So I guess I can kind of talk out both sides of my mouth here for a second, but they haven't paid the big bucks for that big corner outside. But at the same time, you could argue, should they? I mean, a part of me says no. And I like the cornerback room they have right now.
The cornerback room right now, and again, this is where it comes back around to clean scale, because you were kind of going off there again a little bit about it. Just talk about Christian Fulton, talk about Dante Jackson, talk about Benjamin St. Juste, who wasn't even a starter, but the contributions that he was able to make for this cornerback room when he had to step up. It just, again, goes to show that clean scale, and look at the rest of the individuals on the screen right now. Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart, what they've been able to do since their rookie year. We're going to highlight big time, because this is where I think it's going to go. We all thought that whether it was during the free agency period or the NFL draft, that the Chargers were at some point going to address a cornerback, right? No, they never did. Honestly, I think it's because they are so confident in what they have in Nico Reed and Eric Rodgers. And yes, small sample sizes. And yes, great standouts in the preseason. Nico Reed obviously ended up playing 5 games, had a terrific, one of the best textbook pass breakup in that Pittsburgh Steelers game against Aaron Rodgers. And then Eric Rodgers set some preseason records himself for what he did in the one game against the Saints in the preseason. And remember, they knew that he was injured. They knew that he wasn't going to play all of last year, and yet they made the point to keep him on the final roster because they didn't want anyone snatching him up. They didn't want a repeat of the Rocket Sanders situation. Don't get me started on that. But that's how much they valued Eric Rodgers. Eric Rodgers is a big-bodied cornerback. And again, you just talk about the tenacity and the youth injection that you have got in this group specifically. For a reminder, Reed finished the preseason with a 91.1 coverage grade, allowing only 3 receptions on 10 targets, recorded a pick 6, and then those 5 games that I had talked about. And then Eric Rodgers became only the second corner since 2023 to not allow a reception on more than 5 targets in a preseason game, while also having 2 interceptions. It's pretty damn good. But I guarantee you, as Dan's talked about the fingerprints from the coaching staff that you see all over the place, it's once again a testament to Steve Klingscale. And then look up in that top right corner. Everybody always likes to talk about, okay, who's going to be the next undrafted free agent guy to end up making the push for the 53, much in the way that Nico Reed did. Avery Smith. Watch out. He's going to make a push for sure. This is a very, very talented and deep cornerback room. So to Dan's point, would I be surprised if they didn't make a move for a cornerback spot? No. Would I expect that to be the move if they did? Yes. But I think that they have a lot of confidence in this group moving forward.
If our Bolts trade for Denzel Ward, what would it cost, and would you do it?
I don't know. Denzel Ward a week ago said that he wants to stay with the Browns, which was not the case that you got from Myles Garrett a year ago or 2 years ago when they ultimately ended up trading him to the Rams. So if you have someone who is willing to stay with the Browns,
Sorry.
I think that the Browns are going to do. I think the Browns are going to do what they can to keep him. That's just my.
If you have someone who is willing to stay with the Browns will try to oblige. Oof. Yeah, that's brutal. Daniel Bridges, how is the 53 coming down? That's 7 corners. We have 5 safeties, 5 linebackers. We talked about it on the defensive outlook, if you will. Cornerback is going to be a tough battle. Safety is going to be a tough battle. Edge is going to be a tough battle. You might see an interior defensive line battle. And like, that's the point of a Joe Ortiz roster, is there's competition everywhere. And so, like, if we just go through these groups here for a second, and we'll just go position by position real fast. So we did this kind of last week, but if we go real quick. So you look at the edge group, Mac, Tooley, Mesdor, like that part, solid. Bud Dupree, Dane Tucker, Kyle Kennard. They're probably going to keep 4. I don't know if it's going to be 5. But
as you're rolling through this, Dan, I'm going to give you the comparison to last year. So last year they kept 5. They kept Mack, Tooley, Dupree, Kennard, and Caleb Murphy. Obviously, because Caleb Murphy had a really nice preseason, and it was kind of a surprise when he was ultimately cut last year.
Okay.
So that's 5 right there. You look at this screen right now.
Which 5? I mean, hell, what's 4 would you keep? Let alone 5.
Oh, you're keeping 5. There is no 4 for me.
I'm not saying you're not, but I'm saying who is the 4th?
Probably Nadeem Tucker. If I'm giving an edge to anybody, because of the fact that it's Chris O'Leary, because it's for familiarity. But again, I expect big things from Kyle Kennard, and so does everybody else. I think that he's put on more size. I think he's going to get back to the form of what made him a great pass rusher at South Carolina. So again, that's
projection, though. Like
I know it's projection. But if you just listen to the way that the coaches have been talking about him making a second step, you've even heard Khalil Mack talk about him personally. So I see this as another one. God, here we go on June 13th, starting to kind of make 53-man roster specifically on the defense projections. But I would expect this group to be 5, and then to keep Mack, Tooley, Mesidor, Kennard, and Tucker.
I think it'll be 4.
Linebacker is where it's going to get tricky.
I think it's going to be 4, because and not because they couldn't use 5, but in my opinion, you keep the best 53. And you don't keep 5 just to have 5 when you have an interior defensive line that is this good. And so, to me, I wouldn't just keep Kennard and Tucker because you want 5 just in case. Like, go put them on the practice squad, whatever. Just wait, because there's only so many positions you have. So, like, if you Budget Pre, I don't think it's on this team by the start of the season. So let's just say that's 4 for a sec. Okay, let's move over to linebacker, which we know is also insane. Dan Henley, Denzel Perryman, Delshon Phillips, Troy Dye, Colson, and Marlowe Wax. All those guys are in position. I think Dayon, Perryman, and Delshon and Dye are locks. Those 4 are locks because of either linebacker or special teams.
Let's remind ourselves.
But this is what I'm saying.
It's okay. This is part of the context, because this is what's going to make it tough. When you look at, because I think that this linebacker group exceeded expectations given what it was. I personally think that they ended up getting deeper, which is crazy to say. And again, remind yourself that they only kept 4 linebackers last year in the final 53-man cuts. It was Henley, Perryman, Dye, and Marlowe Wax. You already at that point in time had Junior Colson on IR. So you knew that he was not playing for this season. This is obviously a pivotal year 3 for him. He has to not only play, but show that he can work in the system that he basically, was so fluent in Jesse Minters at Michigan for so long. But now with, again, the emergence of Delshon Phillips, I know everybody likes Marlowe Wax. I think there's a lot of potential there with him. This is where it's going to get tricky when you're talking about the 53-man roster, specifically on the defense.
So, like, for example, let's say you have 1 roster spot left. Are you keeping Marlowe Wax, Junior Colson, or Kyle Kennard? That's the question. If you had to choose between, let's go to the interior defensive line. If you had to choose between Kyle Kennard or Bud Dupree or, I don't know, like Nick Barrett.
Oh, there's no question what I'm keeping.
But that's what I'm saying. There's only so many spots available, right? So, in my opinion, Delshon Phillips lock special teams. Troy Dye has been invaluable to this team. Dan Henley, Perryman, we know those. So, do they keep more than 4?
Where it's going to get tricky. That's the position group that's going to be very tricky.
So let's keep going. Tari Patel, Cam Hart, Dante Jackson, those 3 are all locks. I think they love Nico Reed. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Eric Rogers balled out. Dean Leonard is incredible on special teams. So is it going to be between like a Eric Rogers, Avery Smith? Are they going to be battling for that last spot? Or is Nico Reed, Eric Rodgers, Avery Smith battling for that last spot? And like, this is a good problem to have, right? Like, Chargers fans, like, we should be asking ourselves, who is the best 53, period. And so, like, if you got good dudes being cut, that means you have a good roster. Okay.
Reminder to everybody, out of the corner and the safety room, they kept 12 defensive backs last year.
All right. So just remember that number. Remember that number.
Seven corners, 5 safeties.
Okay. So let's just say 12. So who are our 12 going to be this year? Which I don't think maybe it's 12, but Tony Jefferson, Molden, Derwin, and then Mickens, who was awesome last year. Kendall Williams, great on special teams. High draft pick on Genesis Smith. A Miles Purchase showed flashes. So how many of these guys are staying on the 53? Derwin, Tony, Molden, Mickens, that's 4. Any more?
Yeah, I think you keep 5.
So 5 of these.
Mm-hmm.
And how many of these?
I think you keep 7. I think that number is going to remain based on
all these guys are staying.
Based on the competitiveness, and I think that Clinkscale has proven that the way that he loves to coach his DBs is basically being prepared for those injuries to come when they come. And having his guys be versatile enough that if there is an injury that you could step into that place, regardless if it's outside, in the slot, nickel, whatever it is, that you can come in and you can contribute. So I think Clinkscale is probably the second loudest voice in that defensive room for good reason. And yeah, I think that you're going to end up keeping the same amount of defensive backs. Again, I think that safety group is so talented and personally just on lock with the combination of veteran and young players that you have in there. Mind you, 3 of those guys, Derwin, Tony Jefferson, and RJ Mickens, all ended up in top 30 in coverage grades for the safety position. Yep. That's awesome. And Mickens was higher than Jefferson. I think Mickens finished 17th, if I remember correctly.
And Jefferson wasn't even on the 53 to start. So that might be a cheat code too.
I don't think you're going to make that mistake again.
Dude,
I really don't think you're going to make that mistake again.
But was it okay? But honestly, was it a mistake? Not in talent, but in roster management.
Yeah.
Like, that's still end up on the team and balled out.
That's a fair way to say it. Again, for as much as Tony Jefferson has performed in the preseason, you still are scratching your head like, what the hell is going on?
It's risky business, but they're banking on Tony being loyal to Southern California.
Mind you, it was Kendall Williamson that they ended up going with at the beginning of the season when the 53-man roster was cut. And mainly Kendall Williamson's contributions last year was due to the special teams. So obviously Ryan Fitkin needed a little bit of something there. You have to keep that in mind, obviously, when it comes to 53-man roster pushes, is that that's always an element of it. But I don't see how those 5 safeties specifically, Molden, Jefferson, Mickens, Smith, and Derwin, are not the 5 guys to advance. I just don't see it that way.
So we'll have like a 53-man roster, prediction, roster cuts, camp battles, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, thanks for starting that in June. Appreciate it.
But like, you're seeing where it's going to be really tricky. And so like, you're going to have to steal from Peter to pay Paul. So if you're going to have all these dudes on defensive line or the defense that you're going to keep, that means your offensive line is going to be light. That means you're only keeping 5 wide receivers, only 3 running backs, not a fullback. And like, think about the names attached to all of those. There's no way they're not keeping a fullback. You don't want their offensive line to be thin. Do you want only 5 wide receivers? Maybe three quarterbacks? Like, there's so many trickle-down effects to these decisions. And it's not just, oh, is it one linebacker over the other? It's which are the best 53-man for this roster. So we've got about 5 minutes left here, Jake. Any other big-hitting OTA takeaways you wanted to go over today? Folks are saying bye-bye Matlock.
Yeah, all of a sudden we transitioned from OTA takeaways to Let's just build the 53-man roster right
But
now.
that is a takeaway in terms of like you look at the roster and you realize.
Oh, no, it is. There's definitely positions that you're going to highlight to say over the next few weeks of what's going to be a competition. So maybe that could be the final takeaway. Again, you talk about that linebacker room. You talk about that cornerback room. I think the safety position is on lock, but you start thinking about like, okay, what are those bottom, 4, 5 positions that really have some competition behind them? Linebackers there, corner is there. If I was to say any other competition that's really
guard
spicy for, I mean, yeah, I think that's more for starting purposes.
True.
When it comes to that competition, not necessarily who ends up making the final 53.
Maybe wide receiver.
Probably wide receiver at the end of that. Darius Davis, I still think is,
he's got a lot to prove.
We'll see. He has a big couple months ahead of him for what he needs to prove. But outside of that, it's going to be really fascinating just to see how this team in general grows, develops. Even when you're talking about the bulk of it remaining the same, it's the schematics, especially offensively, that are really going to juice things up. If we want to talk about guys that we're expecting big jumps for a year or two, start with number 9. There on the screen. The flashes that we already saw from Trey Harris last year were great in terms of what he was willing to do and the contributions that he was able to make. I would say the same for Keandre Lambert-Smith. Might be one of my most anticipated players in a Mike McDaniel offense. For how he succeeded in college. It's perfect for what Mike McDaniel is going to want him to do. In the moments where you're going to have Justin Herbert load up the howitzer and have enough time to send it downfield to either KLS, Brennan Thompson, Quentin Johnson. The timing is going to be there now. The time should be available for Justin Herbert to do so. So there's a lot of guys in terms of year 2 bumps that you could say, oh yeah, big time expectations for them.
There's a quite a bit of overlap when you look at Brennan Thompson, KLS, and Darius Davis. Not all of them 100%, but it just seems hard to imagine them keeping all 3 of those while also believing that there isn't a better wide receiver out there that could be better than one of those final 2. So let's say it's all these 5 on the left: Brennan Thompson, Trey Harris, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnson, KLS. You don't think there's a better wide receiver out there in terms of depth for this Chargers roster than Darius Davis? I'm no offense to Darius Davis, but like, who would you rather have, Keenan Allen or Darius Davis?
It's no winner.
So look into that a little bit. Running backs, talk about 3, but don't forget Alec Ingold is there. So Matlock, we haven't even put him on the screen for defensive line. He was here. Pick 3 roster projection.
I'm so excited for this group, honestly. In McDaniel's system, with what he wants to do, when you see the way that he has developed Devon Achane over the last couple of years and the production that he is able to put up, I think it's right to think that Omarion Hampton is going to get a huge bump. But dude, don't discredit or dismiss the fact that and think that he's not going to utilize Kamani Vidal or Keaton Mitchell.
Oh, Keaton Mitchell's going to go.
Absolutely. And it's going to be it's going to make the running back room a real Swiss Army knife. And in ways that we have tried to talk about previously, to say like, okay, like what's your flavor here? Hit them with a different type of player because of their skill sets and traits, but you never really got a chance to see that in full fruition. We talked about that tight end, I feel like, for a number of different years now. Since the days when Hunter Henry left, to say like, oh, okay, yeah, you had these 2 tight ends, you can use them with these pack. Nope, never happened. But with the running back room, I think you've got some creative juices that you can work with there for sure.
I agree. This has been a fun one. Again, there's not much football happening right now, and so this is a lot about figuring out what we can take away from OTA so far. But I think a lot of it is ahead of us, obviously. We'll have some fun episodes ahead. Hopefully, folks can stay sane, stay healthy, stay hydrated, and we can get this thing rolling again. Jake, it's been fun. Appreciate you guys. 290 people here on a random Saturday in the middle of June. Y'all are amazing. We love it. This has been fun. I'll let you take us home.
No, I know, again, it's been a minute since Dan and I have gotten a chance to record, let alone do a live show. So, again, appreciate everybody that's coming in here. We always love the talk, the creative banter, the takeaways, the questions that you guys bring to the show. It always makes it a lot more lively. And as Dan said, nobody's hitting anybody. Football's not on, but football is on. And hopefully over the next 5 weeks, Team USA specifically will get you through it all the way to training camp for when it starts. So you'll have something to watch when the NBA and finals and the Stanley Cup are complete.
That'll do it. Enjoy your weekend, everyone. Stay cool. Stay hydrated. For Jake, I'm Dan. This is Chargers Unleashed. We'll talk to you next time on Chargers Unleashed.